What is going on, kids? So, I'm sure you're probably looking at this going, Kyle, it's the end of January. Why do you have a deer hanging in your shop? Well, we've been slow. So, I had a local customer that was lucky enough to pick up a roadkill. So, I kind of decided that we're going to take advantage of this and have a conversation about, is roadkill worth it? So I've picked up quite a few roadkill deer. There is a science to it.
It's science, people! Science! Science!
I know that sounds ridiculous and insane, but there absolutely is a science to picking up roadkill. As you can kind of see with this guy right here, it's a little beat up. The customer knows I don't do roadkill often. For customers, at least. Again, if I happen upon one, I might snag it, depending on how the freezers are looking. But this customer got some tag soup this year, was lucky enough to be on the scene when this happened. So they were able to pick it up. But as you can kind of see, pelvis is shot. This leg was broken off this way. So he's going to lose a good chunk of this. If you look at the back strap, there's some clotting and stuff here. Most of this is just clotting. It probably will be fine. The biggest thing you need to realize going into picking up roadkill is you are not getting the same ratio of meat that you would if you were out shooting a deer. You have to accept that in the beginning. If you go into processing a roadkill deer as if you were processing a deer that you've spent 40 hours tracking down and shooting, you're not going to have a great time. The customer is well aware of this fact. I've explained it to him that basically we'll be going through this thing with a fine-tooth comb. I'm not going to go through a whole deer breakdown on this just because you guys have seen it before. What I am going to do, I am going to pull off this leg just to show you some of the damage and the meat quality that's in it. Before we get into that, I just kind of want to break down a couple things. So, I mentioned before, the customer was basically on site when this happened. He ran to town office, or he ran somewhere. On his way out from there, there were people on the side of the road, and this deer had just been hit. It is very important to know how long that animal has been there. Because if you just roll up on a deer that's there, you don't know how long it's been there. It could have been there 5 minutes. It could have been there 10 hours. That is a massive difference. Obviously, the time of year is also very dependent on it. I picked up a roadkill that I didn't know how long it was been there, but it was 5 degrees out. So there's a bit of a difference there. So the other thing that's also very important, before I get into any other facts whatsoever, you do need a tag to bring home a roadkill deer. Most police departments, depending on where you are in the country, I know out west there are police departments that do not allow people to take roadkill, which I think is absolutely stupid. But more than likely, at least up here in New Hampshire, you can get a hold of a police officer. They'll come out, they'll give you a depredation tag or a roadkill tag, and you're good to go. I have the customer's tag here. I'm not going to show it to you because it's got a whole bunch of personal information on it. So that is very important. Depending on where you are in the country, those laws could be very different. So, like I said, knowing how long it's been there, if you hit it, obviously you know exactly how long it's been there, and you're owed that meat because now you have vehicle damage. If you walk up to a roadkill deer, first thing I want you to do, obviously this is all skun out and everything, just imagine it's not. Just imagine it's a full deer. First thing you're going to want to do is walk up and press on the abdomen like this. If there is a ton of pressure in there, walk away from it. Just walk away. It's not going to be worth your time because that means that animal has been there for a while, and more than likely, something has punctured inside of it. So now there is just stomach contents, blood, everything is now in here, building up gas and expanding. You don't want to deal with it. I've done it. It's not fun. And again, so next, you just kind of want to look at it. Is it in rigor? Like, if you can look at it, you can bend everything around, it's fairly fresh. If you walk up to it and you pick up this leg and the entire animal comes off the ground, walk away from it. It's not worth it. Again, if it's freezing cold and you just want to backstrap it, I'm not telling you what to do on that. That is what it is. And then the last thing I kind of do is I kind of look at what's broken to kind of see where it was hit. Obviously, this leg was broken, and there's a whole bunch of bruising here, and the pelvis is all torn apart, which means to me that this deer was hit on this side as it was crossing the road, got almost across the road, and somebody tagged it. So once you do it enough, you can kind of pick up on what you're looking at. I've picked up a decent amount of roadkill. Some just to fill the freezer. Others, when I was doing a lot of taxidermy, like European taxidermy work, I would pick up porcupines, snapping turtles, just random coyotes, random stuff. You'd see it, like I'd see roadkill, to European the skulls and do stuff like that. There are ways you can tell whether or not you got a good animal or not. And that is dependent on what you're using it for. If it's going in your freezer, you want to make sure that it got hit in the head or somewhere like that. If you're using it for taxidermy work, you want it to be hit in the butt like this, so that way the skull's still intact. Now, there's ways to do this. I'm going to try and figure out how to put some graphics on the screen while I explain this. So, say this is your center line. Say this is the center line and you're driving this way. If you look and there's an animal in the middle of the road, just keep driving. It's not worth it. Just walk away from it. If you're on the white line over here, if the animal's head is on the white line, more than likely it got hit in the body somewhere. So if you're looking to fill your freezer, you might want to walk away. If you're looking to do a taxidermy mount, take the skull, something like that, that's a better option. Now, if you're going the opposite way, say you're still on the white line here, deer's head's in the middle of on this side of the white line and the body's over here. Again, for meat-wise, that's great. That's what you want, because that means it sustained most of its damage up here at the head and neck, and it's dead, and the body is in decent shape. More than likely, there'll be some bruising, but nothing crazy. Now, if you're using it for taxidermy mounts and stuff like that, walk away. The skull is garbage. I'm only telling you this because I've done both. I've picked up questionable roadkill where it's like it might still be in good shape. You put it in the crock pot to take all the meat and everything off, and all of a sudden you pull out a jigsaw puzzle that used to be a porcupine skull. So there's a lot of things you kind of got to factor into what you're doing with this animal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull this leg off. Yeah, this is going to be a little rough one. I'm going to check the framing on this camera. We're going to go ahead and move you up a little bit closer so we can get it. Oh, we're flipping around. Come on. Guess what? All this is going to get edited out. All right, so we're going to take this leg off. I'm just going to show you kind of the damage that happens when an animal is hit by a motor vehicle. So we're just going to pull this off just as we normally would and find that chunk of the pelvis, the crown of it. And as you can see, it's already pulling off. I'm going to avoid that little section right there because there is a little poop there. Yeah. So And we're going to end up tossing this whole back leg. Just because this is pretty rough. But I want to show you guys anyway. We'll cut into it a little bit, see if there's anything salvageable. I'm not seeing much. All right. So, as you can see, there's quite a bit of bruising, quite a bit of clotting. So that's that. And as you can see, there's bone fragments where there shouldn't be. Another thing you want to be present of is obviously the smell. The smell's fine. Again, it literally was hit and in my cooler in about 3 hours. So I'm not too worried about how it is, but you do run into issues sometimes with just the clotting and all of that. Like that can turn a carcass really quick. So you can see right here the pelvis is just completely shattered. We won't be getting anything out of that sirloin. We'll toss that. But from the look of it, the back strap looks like it's going to be in good shape. So if I had to guess, as you can see, quite a bit of bruising right here. More than likely what happened, this deer was crossing the road, got to somewhere in the road, car came up, hit it right here on this side, shattered the pelvis, broke this leg, and then what happened is it kind of flipped, dragged its back on the pavement. That would do all of that to it. Sound like Ducky from NCIS.
And whose grandfather would you be?
Well, that depends. Who's your grandmother?
But again, this leg looks like it's in good shape. We'll face all this stuff off and kind of get into that. I'll shift the camera over. We'll break into this leg a little bit and we'll see what we can save. All right, so we got this guy on the table. You can even just look at it and see the bruising. It's kind of puffed up a little bit. So we'll pull this chunk of bone out, kind of flesh all this out. I'm going to pop this shank off. That is the other thing you need to think about when you're picking up a roadkill is you didn't shoot this, so it didn't have a chance to bleed out. All the blood, if there was internal bleeding, still in the animal. I gutted this one for the customer, and luckily there was nothing was punctured on the inside, no guts were anywhere. But again, it was bloody. So you can see all that blood clotting there. We're going to toss that aside. I will try to save some of that shank. And we'll open up this leg. Yeah, they're not getting any of this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to toss this whole leg. So that's the trauma of what happens when you get hit by a car. All of this is blood clotting. Maybe we can, yeah. We can kind of trim some of this up. But even then, I'm very wary about tossing that in the grind. Just because there's a lot that happens when you get hit. More than likely, even if we trimmed all of this stuff out and made it more edible, it wouldn't taste great. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and set that aside. And I'm going to pull out this back strap. So we will flip you around and see you in a second. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll pull this back strap out since we're already on this side. Again, this is more surface blood, a little bit of bruising. I'm not too worried about that. That will probably be fine. We'll go ahead and we'll pull out this chunk of sirloin right here, and we're just going to toss that. So find the bottom of your pelvis. Find your spine. And just follow that spine all the way down, and we'll take it all the way to the neck. Again, this is a down and dirty one. And we didn't pull out this flank yet, so we're just gonna do this. The tenderloin looks like it's an okay shape, so that will be a plus. And honestly, the backstrap looks like it's in decent shape. Again, there is some blood clotting here. Is to be expected when you get hit by a car. All right, so we're going to cut that off right at the shoulder blade there. And we're going to bring you around this way. Oh, you're looking at the ceiling again. Sorry, folks. All right. So, as you can see, there is some clotting here. But this is already going to be the section, and we're going to clean up this bench. That's super important, too, especially if you're dealing with something with a lot of blood. Keep a clean bench. Get your stuff cleaned up. All right. So, there's some clot in here. We're going to go through, take that right out. Again, don't be sparing when you're breaking down roadkill. If it doesn't look good and you don't want to eat it, cut it. Get it out of there. That actually doesn't look awful, so we'll trim that up for burger. This wasn't a massive deer anyway. This was probably about a year old button buck, or this year's button buck. I think it only hung at about 60 pounds. So there's some clot right there. We'll try. All right, so I'll take that out. We'll toss that part in the grind. Again, it's not a crazy amount of blood clotting, but it's too much for a backstrap steak. And we'll clean that up. All right, so we have some backstrap. Again, this will be delicious. It's one of those things. Is it going to be fantastic? Maybe not. Might be a little tough. But is it better than tag soup? Sure is. So we'll go ahead and do that. Got three nice little back straps. So that's just a bit of a breakdown in that. I'm just going to pop this up here. We'll talk a couple minutes more. Again, when it comes to roadkill, I am the first one to say, use it. Absolutely use it. If you see it, use it. Because more than likely, it's just going to end up in a pit or in a landfill or in the woods somewhere with the coyotes going after it. If you're able to pull something usable off of it, by all means, do it. But again, don't waste your time. Kind of think about what I said about placement of where it is on the road, how long it's been there, what hit it. That's another huge difference. More than likely, this was just a small car that hit it, bumped it, killed it. It is what it is. This was a full-size truck. There wouldn't be anything left of this. Or a semi-truck or something like that. So my thought is always, if you saw it happen or you were a couple minutes away from seeing it happen, you're good to go. Grab it, do what you can with it, and that's great. If you have no idea how long it's been there, it doesn't look like it's in good shape, don't waste your time and walk away. So I hope that was helpful. I don't know. that's just stuff I've picked up along the way that's helped me and the family kind of put some meat in the freezer. So from there, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We have an action-packed podcast weekend this weekend. We got Nicole Sauce from Living Free in Tennessee. He's going to be on Meet the Critters. And then me and Joe are also going to be on Toolman Tim's show doing a Butcher Q&A. So make sure, like I said, you like and subscribe to all of those channels. We're super fun people, fun to talk to, fairly entertaining. So other than that, we'll see you guys next time.